Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the live stream today conversation with uh, with Holly Matson talking about the animal conversation. If you can hear me, let me jump on my other channel right here for a second to make sure that I'm absolutely 100% having conversations with you guys. Hold on for one sec. Can you hear me? Hello, Jenny Brown has arrived. Hello, Jenny Brown. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. I wanted to have this conversation with Holly today because of the fact that Holly has a lot more experiences with animals than I do, and I've been getting a lot of questions lately about animals, whether they're sentient, whether how the conversations work, whether they can choose, and so and how does someone access, working with an animal? Is it through their owner, or is it through? So Holly is, in my opinion, the best person. Hello. Oh, so let me just say hello to everybody else here. Hello, Blue Moon. Hello, Becky Duncan. Hello, Maxine. I can hear you too, Maxine. Bright Love, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm not sure how many are on with us right now. I can't see that screen. So give me one second. Let me hop over here. And gonna hop in here. Gonna jump on. Trying to find my connection here. All right. Well, Iris, how are you, Iris? Haven't seen you in a long time. This is good to see you. Rhonda, it's good to see you as well. Let me find this little thing. Okay. Crypto Nerd, hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm really having a hard time getting my other channel here. Let's see. View channel. And here's the live stream. I'm going to volume you down. Okay, now I can see you guys. That makes much more sense. So there's 26 of you guys on here right now. That's great. Hello, NASA golfer. I'm going to hit you up for some coffee, I think. Anyway, yeah, so the reason I wanted to have this conversation, like I was saying, is because Holly has a lot more experience with animals than I do, and a lot more stories that she can bring out to help us all kind of understand that relationship between humans and animals. And my friend Holly and I have known each other forever. She's easily found at lightseedsbyholly.com. And if you want to hear some of the testimonials from people, or read some of the testimonials of her work, you can do that right on her website. She, from what I've seen, her success rate is pretty darn good. And so let me bring Holly in just so we can start having a conversation with her, and so that I don't look so discombobulated. Hey, Holly Matson, I see you there. Holly, can you see me? Hello, Holly. Hello, Holly. Oh, she went away. I'll go back to me. Holly Matson, okay. Well, get her to turn back on. She's coming back in. I have to. There she is. Hello, Holly Matson.
There we are.
You
were
on.
Froze up, and I had to reconnect.
And you are online right now with our amazing followers. Jenny Brown was the first to show up.
Hello, amazing followers. And I was going to say I saw. Oops, I negated all the comments. Hello, Iris, and hello, Jenny, and all these good friends on here. This is fun.
That's awesome. This is great. So Holly, one of the things that people have been asking me lately is do animals have a choice about their life and about death, about health, about all those things? And it was a question that I couldn't answer because I don't have those kind of conversations. So I thought I'd ask you first. Hey, there's somebody in your video right now.
My able-bodied assistant, one of them. And I'm going to, if I get a little wiggly, I'm trying to keep her from knocking the microphone off and the camera.
Right.
Yes, they have will to bother their owners sometimes. I don't like that word owner, but it's animals are sentient beings just like humans are. And one of the first things I learned working with them, partly in the training, but also just from working with them, is that
Oh, you froze up again, Holly.
intellectual intelligence, if you know what I mean.
Holly, you
But it's
froze up. You
different.
froze
That
up, and we
doesn't mean
missed a
it's
little
less
bit
or
of that.
greater than. It's just different. They process energy in a very different way from how humans do. And besides that, just as humans do, they individually process energy usually differently from each other. You
Right.
run across a human who's kind of a visual learner, and then you might find somebody else who can't learn anything that way and has to hear it. It's kind of the same way with animals. So, yeah, in my experience, they are. Um, she's looking at me like I want to knock something off. Oh, now I'm frozen.
You were frozen
Can you
before,
hear
Holly.
me? You're
I,
frozen too.
I can hear you fine. Can you
I
hear
don't
me?
know if anybody
I think you're having bandwidth issues on your
can
end.
hear me.
We can hear you. Yes. I think you're having bandwidth issues on your end.
Oh,
Well, let me jump.
I don't know if it's my internet. Oh,
Fine.
go.
Well, let me just jump over to me while she goes out. So, obviously, we're having technical difficulties with Holly today, and here she comes back in again. Um, uh, hang on. What the heck? There you
There,
are.
back.
I
Again,
think you're having bandwidth issues on your end.
I think so. I don't
Uh,
know what I can do about that while we're talking, but
well,
anyway,
we'll
I don't
do
know
our
how much
best.
of that you heard.
We missed a lot of it. So why don't you go back to
Okay.
that just
Okay.
their sentient being kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's true. My little troublemaker here. Um, they make their own decisions. They have their own feelings. They remember and feel things just the way. No, not just the way as humans do. It's the same kind of a sentient being. It's just that the processing systems are different. To use a digital analysis, it's kind of like a combination of Mac and PC. It takes special connectors to connect them. And one of my good friends, who's an amazing communicator, is on this call right now, and I won't get her in trouble by quoting her, but she knows who I mean. I don't
I
consider
know
myself
too. Ha ha ha.
I know you do. Um, I don't consider myself a communicator because that really is kind of a different training, and it's a different muscle in the body. But what I've learned from these years of working with these critters is that I'm surprised sometimes, especially at the beginning. I was surprised by what I can learn from them.
To me, it's fascinating because I know that you've told me stories of animals that you were working with that literally said, "I'm not going to heal,"
Hmm.
and they kind of bring you that information. You ended up being the person who had to kind of say to their, and I'm going to use Bright Love's new word here. She says use companion instead. All right.
I like
Uh,
pet parrot.
pet parent. That's good. That's good.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think that sometimes being in the position you get put in, where you have to convey that sort of information. First of all, I think it's a lot of trust that the animal puts in you to
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yeah.
But I think in your own analogy, I think you're the dongle that connects Mac and PC.
Mhm.
If that
And
makes any
and to be
sense.
very clear about it, because it's a really important point, I don't convey that kind of information. I would
Mm.
never say to a pet parent, "Well, I heard from your dog that they're going to transition tomorrow." That would
Right.
be extremely irresponsible. And it's not for me to say. It's a conversation between the dog and the pet parent. Yet, it's my responsibility for the pet's well-being, because that's what I'm there for, to say I will talk to your family about this, and I
Okay.
say to them, please get them checked out by the vet and get an evaluation.
Do that.
With a few elderly animals or severely ill. In fact, it just happened a couple of weeks ago where a client um, passed away from something that they knew was coming, but there was a hope that the work that I was doing might help the animal heal. And that leads to another discussion. That too is up to the animal.
Right.
This kitty decided that that wasn't right, apparently, because she did pass on. And I can't make the decisions any more than a doctor in a hospital can make the decision for a patient whether they're going to live or die. I can
Right.
offer all the tools, I can offer all the energy to support them, and I can offer compassion to both the pet and the family, but I can't directly relay that kind of information.
Right. Right. Uh, I have a question that's directly for you. Um,
Oh,
was Holly been with a natural? Has you were you born with a Holly natural gift for animals?
shoot.
Holly, I can still hear you.
Are you there, John? Okay.
I,
I'm
I
so sorry about this. This is
Oh,
the
you
way.
don't worry. You don't worry about it. This one question was for you, Holly. Were you born with a natural gift for working with animals?
That's a good question too. I don't know how much you heard about the whole death thing, but we'll come back
We
to it if need
actually,
be.
Holly, we heard all of that.
Okay, good, good,
But
good.
I will tell you, just
Um,
just being your friend, I need to tell you that there is one moment you froze that was not flattering.
oh, I saw that. Yes, I know. um, I don't know how to explain. It's one of those things where you're not consciously aware of something. You just some at some point you might realize it. I've always had an extreme affinity with animals because people sucked when I
Hmm.
was young. People were a challenge, and bless her heart, my mom was a big animal lover, and I kind of picked up from her. She was on the verge of understanding about there just being regular sentient beings. And all of us that are pet parents know we all talk to our critters. I mean, that's just the way it is. I did then too. But I wasn't in the awareness of this back and forth conversation or sensing energy until maybe, I'm guessing, 10 years ago. And then got into the Reiki training, and that opened up a whole lot of stuff. And now it's just the more, as with any muscle, the more you use it, the more it expands.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Uh, NASA golfer is asking if you have a pet. I think we've seen one of them.
She's gone now. I'd say it was 2 weeks after I first moved out of my parents' house, I got two kitties. I have to have a pet. And John knows when I lost my beloved Quinny cat 3 or 4 years ago now, she had horrible oral cancer. I lasted 6 weeks. I was in this house alone for 6 weeks without a pet because I just
Mm,
wasn't ready. And then I got these two mischief makers that I have now who I adore. So yeah, I will always have a pet. I have to, or not one, more. I have to.
well,
And then
and you
of
take care of
recent,
a bunch of pets on your back deck
I
too.
was just going to say that. And to add to that, my outside animals, I live on a semi-rural kind of a property, and there are raccoons whom I adore. I love watching the raccoons, and then we get deer and possums and sometimes foxes and all kinds of good things. So yeah, I'm surrounded by critters and I love it.
That's awesome. Um, someone just asked you what kind of questions they can ask. We're kind of focusing on animals today. So if you want to talk about animals with Holly, especially because we have her expertise here today, so we have to dive into that. So we're talking animals today. Tomorrow I'm doing a live stream for people who want to start their own YouTube channel if anybody's interested in that. And next Friday will be my standard Live Loving live stream, Friday night. So if you want to come in and just ask deep spiritual questions, that's more what that one will be about. But today we're kind of focusing on animals and doing that kind of work. Um, so we have a lot of dog owners and cat owners in the mix here. So Holly, when I know because of the people that I've talked to who've worked with you that they see they see a lot of results
Hmm.
fairly quickly. Now that kind of result is has got to be a direct connection between you and that animal for that animal to actually have that kind of result.
Hmm.
The question I would ask is there pet parent a, an inroad to that conversation, or are you going directly to the animal, or do you need that bridge between the pet parent and the animal?
Yes to all of that.
Okay, okay,
um, when I set up an appointment with a client, a human client, I ask for a 15-minute consultation because that way I connect with the parent's energy. And then when I get ready to do the session and connect with the animal's energy, I have a process that I go through. So I love the word imagination because it's just inspiration. And I have kind of a visualization meditation that invites them into my energy. So it's strange. I've tried to explain to clients about I heard her bark or I heard her toenails on the floor or something like that because we're not dealing with a physical body, but it's all energy. And so the pet parent is the inroad to the animal and energetically, and that's one of the things I was going to mention. So now's a good time. When you get stressed, when you get upset, when you get angry, so does your pet. And it's impossible to be placid all the time. We wouldn't be human and life would be awful. But I've explained to a lot of pet parents that they're being upset about something is transmitted to the animal. They're totally into our energy. I had a human client that was having trouble with a new kitty, being very fearful, and hiding for a couple of days after she came back home from being on a trip. And we realized between us that's because she had gotten all frantic about, do I have everything? And it's all business related. She was just so frantic and get out of the house and everything taken care of. That transmitted to the kitty, there's something to fear. Obviously, completely unwittingly, that wasn't the intention. So we worked on that a bit, and I gave energy, offered energy to the pet, and said, no, when your mommy goes away, here's what's happening. You're safe, you're fine. And we worked on releasing energy that didn't belong anymore of fear and worry. And I love the reports I'm getting back.
awesome, awesome. So NASA golfer, by the way, NASA golfer, I see him on my other live streams and comments
Mm.
on the channel. But every time I see your name, NASA golfer, I think of my brother who retired from NASA and is a golfer. So um, so let me. He actually is asking a question which will take us right into your process, Holly. His question is, can animal communicators talk to animals via Zoom call? Well, it's if Holly ever comes back again. So can you hear me now, Holly?
I can. I know this is annoying as hell,
And
but
that's okay. We sound like a Verizon call. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
yes. My disappointment is that now I can't see the comments from where I
Okay. Well,
reconnected.
I'll read them to you. Don't you worry. Can
Okay.
animal communicators talk to animals via Zoom call? This is a chance for you to talk about your process. And
That's interesting.
that said, I also want to say that Jenny Brown is highly recommending your service for
Oh, thanks,
right
Jenny.
below
I
that.
know
So
I love your doggies. Um, they don't need to. We're talking telepathy. We're talking intuition. We don't need cameras and equipment to work with an animal, either for healing or for communication. So I don't know that that would even be necessary or work because the animal doesn't know what's going on with Zoom.
right, right.
Good
So
question,
so
though.
how does your process work? What's the the process you go through with a
Well, I
pet.
won't give away trade secrets,
Right. Okay.
but
Never mind.
no, but the essence of it is when I get myself settled into the right place and all of that, um, I invite the animal into my space, and I can't explain how or what it is, but I've created sort of an energetic bridge. And there's I hear it clicking. I hope that's just something on
That's
your
that.
end.
What that is that's comments coming in below us.
Oh, good, good.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
I create sort of a bridge and say, if it's an animal that I've already worked with, they come running across the bridge to me, which is awesome. If it's a new one, I watch their body language, which again sounds very strange when we're talking telepathy. If they're hesitant and a little bit like this, then I talk to them quietly and just say what I'm there for and that their pet parent invited me, and if it's okay, so here's what it feels like. And I've had a few, especially those that I know, like a few dogs that just come racing across the land in my lap, and that just makes me giggle. Even though it's energy, it's just as valid, and I sense it just as much as if it were a physical body. It's the coolest thing. So
Right.
once they're in my presence, usually, and depending on the animal, I kind of make them small. I imagine them small in my lap so that I can work with them with the energy. I check for any blips or little like odd spaces. My hands sense that energy. And if you don't know, Reiki is all done through the hands. There's a really powerful energy spot in your palms, which you don't need to have training to use. Um, and then as I work with the animal, I'm going through their chakra system and checking the energy and flow and all of that. If there's a specific concern that I've been made aware of, then I'll focus more energy there. But energy healing is about providing that boost of energy to the body and let the body do the work. I'm not healing anything or anybody. I am not sending energy. No, I'm sending energy. I'm not sending healing. I'm allowing the body to remember what it feels like to be happy and healthy.
Okay. So that takes us into Jenny Brown's question. Uh, is there a difference between energy Reiki on humans as opposed to doing it on animals?
For me, there is.
Okay.
I haven't done a lot of humans because my focus is the animals. But again, I know several Reiki practitioners that are on this call.
Oh.
When I've done humans, it does feel very different. It's a very different kind of an energy. Um, and it's odd. I've found myself more in tune with the energy of the animals, probably because, again, that's the muscle I'm using. So I don't know how I can explain the difference. It's like, how do you explain the difference between a green onion and a spring onion? And I don't know how else to put it. So
Right. Right.
I
Okay.
don't have an answer.
That makes sense. Well, here's a question from Tom Hood. Do human spirits visit us through our pets?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Hi, Tom. Um, I don't know how to answer that. It's not something I have any experience with. I know human spirits can use nature's energy to communicate. I mean, I know a lot of people who have experienced that. Like I've seen a picture that gives me goosebumps on the internet of a cat kind of reaching up like this and looking up at seemingly nothing. And the caption is that this was 2 hours after the dog had been put to sleep.
Oh,
And I know, and that just made me cry the first time I saw it. It's just, ugh. And I know a lot of people who have had animals that watch something walking around a house. Um, I think that human spirits will definitely use animals and other forms of nature to try to get through to us.
right,
Um,
right. Okay. And back to our NASA golfer again. So I see energy work is it's more energy work with animals than communication, right?
for me, that's
Yeah.
my job. Yeah, and again, I know a bunch of communicators, and as I say, it is a different process, but the result is that the intention is that we're aiming for the pet's well-being, and the result is often really amazing.
So we have a question. Is there a way that somebody else could learn to communicate with their pet?
If I can do it, anybody can. Um, There are a lot of courses, depending on where you are in the country, there are always a lot of courses online or local that teach.
Hmm.
Um, I've taken a few classes, and again, I could tell it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't where I was supposed to be putting my energy.
Right.
But I know there are a lot of sources for training, and I would just recommend that if you do, not only check out who's teaching, but make sure that you get into more than just the basic level of communication, because, like with energy training, there are um, there are degrees of training as to what you learn. So aim
Right.
for at least level two.
Right. Right. Um, so, Becky Duncan wants to know whether you communicate with deceased animals as well.
I haven't, because again, with my work being energy healing, if
Right.
they're already energy, they don't need healing.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, and I want to add to this story too because um, I sometimes have these very visceral dreams of my dog Odin, and it's always the same dream, but it's a really odd dream. It's like I go to someone else's home, and I come in, and I walk in, and I look over, and Odin is there, and my whole thought process, oh, you're still alive, this is the dream, and then I literally he runs over, he licks me, and we love, play and love, and when I leave, I take him with me. And I
mhm.
really do think it's a communication from Odin coming through.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah. And so to me,
There's
it's
no
like
doubt.
the whole idea of seeing him and saying you're still alive, to me in a dream, that tells you that you're talking to the other side in my mind. What's your thought on that, Holly? Okay. She'll be back in a second, folks. See, I told you.
Yep.
So what's your take on that whole Odin story, Holly?
Oh, absolutely. It's visitation.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, animals visit using the same kinds of, it's not really a method, but you know what I mean. I mean, I've had visitation dreams with humans all the time. It's no different with animals. That's a great way for them to get in touch with you. And oftentimes, because our human brains, our minds are too much in the way to sense it. And when we're sleeping, our minds are shutting up, being more quiet, and we can sense the energy and work with them more.
Right, right. Um, Angelica says, and you get a new puppy, how can you make them feel comfortable in their new environment?
Oh, what a good question.
What a
Puppy or
love,
kitty?
what a lovely
Um,
question.
it is. There are loads and loads and loads of kinds of information on there on the internet too. And one site that I really recommend is called Sits and Wiggles, and it's a local service, but they have all kinds of information on their website for those kinds of things. And I think the main thing, energetically speaking, is to always remain calm. I I've heard so many stories of animals being given at Christmas time or Easter. Oh, isn't it cute? And with all the chaos and stress in the family, that's not a safe environment for especially a young animal. They're being taken away from what they know. They're being taken away from their animal families. So gentleness and quiet and kindness are above all. I mean, it's the most kind and loving thing I think you can do is be gentle, be consistent, and be aware of them as a being. It's not like you're their boss, but
Right,
you literally are their parent. You're teaching them how to get on in the world in your house.
right, right. That makes great sense. Well, yeah, we have someone wanting to ask if you can see their animal now, but I know your process is to kind of come into that easily and slowly and through your own process. So you don't do
Right.
like straight readings like
I'm not a psychic. No,
yeah,
I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not a psychic reader, so I
Yeah.
don't, or a medium, so I don't get that information.
Let's see. NASA golfer says your work is really important because they're seeing the
Mm,
results of your work. People will know they can help animals too,
yeah,
which I think is
definitely.
lovely.
And that's a good point, that people can help their animals, and it's like going to a specialist. I'm the specialist when there's things going on with an animal, but you're their parent. You're there all the time with this animal. And so I love to recommend to clients, when I'm done with the pet, when you express your love to that pet, you're offering healing.
Right.
When you pet them, you're offering healing. When you look at them with love, you're offering healing. And you can give all of that a boost if you remember that these are your most potent healers right here. And if you
Right.
picture, I like to use kind of a green light, but you might get something different, whatever image works for you. And you picture a ray coming out of your hand and just kind of smooth that light down your pet's body, and that can work wonders.
Right. And
Again, be kind and be loving.
to kind of throw this into another historical thing, the Gnostic Gospel of Mary Magdalene talks about all ailment comes from fear.
Mhm.
And the book of John, which is, by the way, the best darn book in the Bible, um, it actually says perfect love drives out fear. So when you're giving that loving intention, you're creating the resonance of perfect health, because the perfect health
Right.
is love. And
Mhm.
so I think it's totally, I think that's the work you do. And I know the love in your heart, Holly Matson.
Yep.
Do Bright Love says, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Holly, do you think animals can bring us signs from source?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As I said before, animals can use nature for their communications when we are to in here to listen. Um, one teacher had said to me one in my very beginning exploration of this that if you see a hawk on a tree, it's being a hawk. If you see a hawk land on the ground 2 feet in front of you and staring at you, it's not just being a hawk, it's being a messenger.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you see an animal in either an unusual time of day or with unusual behavior or something like that, pay attention. Pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, what's going on right then, and what's going on in your life, because there's very likely a message there.
Right. I had an experience one time driving back from Delaware, and I was driving back, and I was like, and all of a sudden, something caught out of my eye, and a bald eagle came right over my car and hung out 20 feet in front of my windshield and flew with me as we're going down. So he's like, I go looking at his tail feathers 20 feet in front of my windshield. And it just, we
Oh,
went for the longest of time, and then it flew off. It was crazy. Another time I was camping, and I was sitting next to a campfire, and I hear this rustling, and suddenly, wham! Right on the other side of the fire, a gigantic owl
oh.
landed, and we're sitting there looking at each other across this fire. It was really impressive, really fun.
And
um,
a lot of cultures besides the Native American cultures teach that those kinds of visitations, especially from large birds of prey, are a creator.
right, right. And Chitra says, hello, Holly and John. Hello, Chitra. Good to see you.
Hello.
Um, so Bright Love says she had the same situation with the hawk staring, and then hovered above her car. That's cool.
So,
Uh, I got to tell you, I love one of my favorite things about doing live streams is when I'm using this software. Not sometimes the emojis come through, sometimes they don't. But when they don't, this is what it looks like: hand pink waving, hand pink waving, hand pink waving, hand pink waving. um, and see, and here's another one: an owl flew at my car. Animals are so interesting. I think that the more serene you are, the more they're likely to come around you. I remember years ago doing a medieval fair not too far from here. I used to go down next to the campground where I was staying. There's this big ravine, and I'd go down and I'd meditate down in that ravine. And I finished meditating, and I was just still in that serene state. And I walked over, and there was a tree that had fallen, and it created a natural bridge to this little island in the middle of the stream. So I walked out on the tree, and I got halfway across, and I turned, and I looked to my left, and there was an 8-point buck staring at me, 20 feet away, 25 feet away, something like that. And we just sat there and looked at each other, and I was so calm, all right? And then next thing I knew, I got excited. And I went, oh, cool. He tripped and fell and ran away, right? But it comes back to that when we're in that calm state, they're in that calm state. My 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 little brother was afraid of dogs, and I would go down to my brother-in-law's house, and I'd walk up, and his big Labrador would come out named Bones, And I'd say, Bones! He'd run over and he'd wag his tail, and I'd pet all over him. And he turned to my brother, who was a little boy at the time. My brother was terrified. And the dog nipped at him, growled at him, barked at him. Same dog, within seconds of each other. I think they feel that energy, and it's a matter of going back to that one earlier, where how do you make them feel comfortable with it when they in your home? Be that calm, loving energy. Does that make sense
If
to you,
you're
Holly?
feeling afraid, they're believing you're giving them something to fear.
Yeah, yeah. NASA Golfer wants to know if you've ever had any veterinarians that you've worked with.
Oh, that's a good question. No, I'd love to, but I know of a couple of holistic veterinarians, but I don't know any directly, and I've never worked with anybody like that.
Yeah, I think it's a bridge you have to gap somewhere between spirituality and science, and Holly be back in just a minute. But I think it is a bridge you have to cross this bridge between spirituality and science, because of the fact that in bridging that gap between spirituality and science, you're taught one thing that's based on empirical evidence, and yet spirituality, the empirical evidence, comes after the fact.
Right.
And so it's a very hard thing to deal with, this sometimes the person who's so science minded. And that's one of my greatest excitements about noetic science, is they're starting to bridge the gap between spirituality and science. And to me,
Hmm.
it's going to be an amazing day when they finally make some real big discoveries about how our thoughts are creative. So, anywho, let me see what else we got. Jenny Brown says we can learn a lot from animals.
Amen to
Um,
that.
and let's see, they are always in the present moment. I completely agree with that statement. Animals are always in the present moment. They're not ruminating over their past, and they're not, you know, they might be hunting for food at the time if they're a wild animal, or in your kitchen trying to find your food. Right, right. um, but they're very much in the moment. I'm hungry. I am eating. I am loving. She hears the stimulus of Holly on her phone. That cat is going to climb on Holly's lap when she's on that phone, right? And so they are very present moment, and I think the more present moment we can be, the closer we will be to actually contacting them again. Boy, I'm really liking the leapfrog with Holly today. It's really pretty kind of fun.
I apologize again. This is so annoying.
Holly, you do
I,
not need to apologize.
I
There is
can't
no,
do anything
you
about
and
it.
you
So
you
anyway,
never you
but
never
yes,
need to
John knows all
apologize.
too well that when the phone rings, my one cat, it's a short-haired calico, will run and start bumping my hand with the phone at it because I'm talking to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a lot of people in the chat today who've got elderly animals,
Mm,
and we have one right now. Brandy. She says she's got a boy who's struggling. He's 15, very
mm,
arthritic, having trouble, but still tons of life. I have such an issue. She says she has such an issue playing God and making a
mm.
decision for euthanasia. Um, what's your thought on that process, euthanasia? I
My
know
thought
with
is it's
good.
god awful hard process.
It is a hard
I've
process.
done it. We've all done it too many times.
Yeah. My
And
dog,
it,
my dog Odin, I got him when he was 2 weeks old, and I had to bottle feed him. I carried him in my pocket, and most Rottweilers only go to 8 or 9 years old, and he made it to 12, which is amazing. And he ended up with bone cancer, and it got to the point where he couldn't stand, and he was nipping at people, and it just got to the point where he wasn't living a quality life, and it was like he obviously doesn't feel good. How can I best help him in this process? And
mm,
what we did was we did have him euthanized, but we went to the place, we sat there, we loved on him, we hugged him, we gave him a whole box of milk bones, and just sat there and loved on him, and then let him gently fall asleep in our arms. And that was, to me, in my mind, that's the way. If you have to do it, take them out of their pain. That's fine.
yeah.
But I think it's still a hard
It's
process, no matter what you do.
it's interesting. I think many of us who, like you said with Odin, many of us have seen the lack of well-being, the lack of a quality life in our pets. And my first thought is always, 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 always consult with a compassionate vet. Compassionate, underline that. Because a lot of them because they're just so busy. I'm not by any means maligning vets. You need someone who is compassionate, who can understand that balance between well-being and he's suffering.
Right.
And that's always my tipping point. If the animal's eating and drinking and doing the other end as they need to and doesn't appear to be suffering, great. The trouble is, so many animals, especially cats, can hide their suffering
Mm.
because that's a safety feature. In the wild, you don't want a predator to find out that you're disabled.
Right.
So
Right.
your first step is always the vet, and I don't know that there's any other really good way. As I said before, it's completely irresponsible for me or anyone else to say, yeah, it's time. But you can get the clues from the animal, and especially if you are really in tune emotionally and psychically and so forth, you'll know.
Right.
I've had clients that, for lack of a better word, really fight it because, and I get that it's a horrible thing to go through.
Mm.
But I've had a couple of people come to me, not literally expecting a cure, but putting all their hopes on an energy healing. What if that's not what the animal chooses? If it's not in their best interest to stay in their physical body, then it's not going to happen. It's not
Right.
up to me or anyone else. It's up to the pet and whatever their higher power is.
Right. Right. That goes back to our first question: did they have choice? And
Right.
so, yeah, I wanted to just put this comment up. Hello, Chitra and Jenny. Now, this is my friend Bobo, and I call him Bobo because the first time I met him, I called him Bobo for some reason. And then I jokingly started calling him Babo Natale, which is the name for Santa Claus. And now look at his picture. He didn't have the beard when I like that when I met him. So now he is truly Babo Natale. Hello, Babo Natale. Chitra says, Holly, we love you very much.
Oh, thank
That's so good.
you.
Um, Maxine says she can read her dog by her body language. Let me see if I can.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can read her dog by her body language. I had some neat experiences with red-shouldered hawks, and would sit outside fourth floor apartment window and holler at me. They'd holler at me and get some great photos of them. I like the idea of the concept about reading your pet. Like
Hmm.
animals are so they understand what's going on. I mean, I remember coming home one day with Odin, and usually he'd run and meet you at the door and he'd lick. And I walked in the front door and he's lying on the floor, and he kind of like looks up at me and he kind of pretends I'm not there. And I start looking around. I'm like, and I look over.
What did
Yeah, he's lying on.
you do?
He knows he's not allowed on the couch, right? And so I look over at the couch. There's a wet spot on the couch, and I walk over and I touch the couch, and it was still warm. He heard me coming in. He jumped off, ran over, laid down, and pretended it didn't happen, right?
That's
So
hilarious.
I mean, they're very aware. They're very aware, and yeah, you can totally read them. Chitra, thank you for the super chat. I will split that with my good friend Holly today, so that we can both keep our businesses going. Um, as a spiritual person myself, do you believe being a vegan or vegetarian affects your karma on your time on Earth? My question is, does vegan or not make a difference in your incarnations? I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll give my insight on it.
Thanks. That's a hard one. I don't really, honestly, I don't feel like I really have any input on that because I'm, I have had some past life experiences, but I don't know anything about the experience of how vegan or not translates into other lives.
Yeah, one of the things that I find about this comment that's interesting is the concept of karma.
Hmm.
Karma is in the modern New Age movement is very much used differently than karma would have been back in the day. Back in the day, it was more like sowing and reaping. Now they're taking it over lifetimes and all that stuff. It really is about the same sort of principles that the Bible would talk about. What you sow, you reap, and so the concept of it carrying on like that would be an interesting animal. The other thing is that vegan or vegetarianism. You look back. There are some religions that lean that way. There are some that don't. Jeshua said, I would be more worried about what comes out of your mouth than what goes in. If you're Jewish and you jump into the book of Leviticus, there's literally a list of the animals to eat. So I think it really comes down to your individual personal preference and what you believe about that outcome.
Right.
My next door neighbor, right here, they are both completely plant-based diet, and they're thriving. They're doing great, and I think it's wonderful. I get sick when I eat vegetables. I literally, my skin breaks out. I have issues. So I am currently a carnivore. I eat nothing but meat. And so it comes down to what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And I think that the concept of spiritual karma, there is a movement that came out in the late 1800s where they literally tried to say that all religions are vegetarianism. And they actually created a newspaper man wrote a series of articles called the Gospel of the Holy 12. And what he did was he took the New Testament and he added vegetarianism into it. And what's really interesting is nowadays people talk about the Gospel of the Holy 12 like it's 2,000 years old. But so it really comes down to what do you feel is right for you, and you live into your own personal experience with it. So that's my take on it. You want to add anything to that, Holly?
No, I mean, again, as an energy healer, I don't really delve into those kinds of issues, and
Right.
I don't have any personal views on it, interestingly, so I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Well, there you go. Tom says he also tells his cat to let him know if they aren't feeling well and not to hide
Good,
it. That's
good.
ah,
And
that
I
kind of
encourage that with everybody that I work with. Talk to your pet. is they People have often said, well, they don't understand human language. Oh, nonsense, they do. A lot of it's inflection and energy, but they understand on that telepathic level what you're saying to them. And so what Tom's talking about and I've done it myself with my animals. Like, I'll tell them if I'm going to be gone a while. I'll tell them I'm going to be gone a while. I've worked with a couple of clients that the one I mentioned earlier, when she had to go on a business trip and the kitty freaked out. When you talk to them and say, look, here's the thing, you may not understand weeks or months. I'll say I'll be gone 2 sleeps, and then I'll be home. You're safe. You're taken care of. And when you ask for feedback from your pet, you will get it. So I think that's wonderful, Tom.
right. So Bright Love wants to know what kind of animal companions you have. So this would be a great time for you to tell us about uh, your your uh, your fur babies, as you call them.
Notice the grin. As I said earlier, I can't survive without pets in my life. If you go to my personal Facebook page, you will see 4 bazillion pictures of them, because all pet parents do that. But I also have pictures on my Light Seeds by Holly page on Facebook as well. I have 2 kitties. As I said earlier, I lost my favorite calico to, or tortie, to oral cancer a few years ago, and through a wonderful Facebook group was connected with a couple of rescues, and was heaven sent these 2 siblings that I don't know age. They're probably right around 9 years old now. 2 calicos. One's fluffy and white haired, and was named by her child owner as Fluffy, which I thought singularly unimaginative. So she's now Buffy, nothing to do with vampires. And then the other one that we were talking about earlier loves it when I'm on the phone, and I'm surprised she's not here because I'm talking on the computer. Short-haired calico, and they're both extremely goofy. I love it.
Well, they say that their pets are like their owners.
Yes, indeed. You know me well.
Brandy would like to know. She said she's seen people use pendulums to communicate with pets. What are your thoughts?
Same difference. It's
Uh,
whatever tools work for you, especially as you develop the skills and the experience. If a pendulum works for you, go for it. It's
yeah,
it's all energy, and
yeah,
once the animal understands what you're doing, they may be well using that, to communicate with you.
yeah. I love that answer because to me it all comes back to belief. If you believe it works, then it's going to work for you. And if you don't believe it's going to work, then it's not going to work for you. So Reiki works because people put faith in it, and so as does many other things, and especially someone like Holly who's seen so many positive results from this. Holly has seen these results, and so her own faith is infectious. She goes and says, "I can do this. I'm helping you," and that in itself engenders more belief, right? And so it's like where two or more are gathered in my name, there so I am, and I am is the declaration that you believe it, and so that's kind of in my take, it's like it all works. So,
and I just had this conversation with you recently too. The important thing to remember about energy healing is first off the responsible practitioner who says my intent is to offer love,
yeah,
period, whatever
right,
form that love takes.
right,
And an animal doesn't have human type belief systems, but energy healing works on gardens. I'm looking out my window at the bulbs getting ready to pop up. If I go out there and offer Reiki for like a few times, I bet the garden's going to be more lush. I've experienced that. Any form of energy welcomes those energy boosts.
right, right. That makes perfect sense. Well, we're winding down now because we're down to the last 10 minutes of this thing. So, if we have any last questions, feel free to throw them up there. I know because I've had an opportunity to hear people who've talked about Holly and people who've come and
That sounds
shared.
a little risky. Talked about me how?
You won't believe the things they've said. It's crazy. But Holly is like a sister to me. I've known Holly for forever. We have a story that is it's kind of profound the way we came together. Someone told us that you know the vine and the branches sort of thing. But let me jump over here to NASA Golfer one more time. Did Holly learn Reiki for people first and switch to animals, or did she teach her Reiki for animals? Or did her?
Or did I just start with Reiki for
Yeah.
animals?
Okay.
I
Thank you.
started once my intuition started to build. Long time ago now, I had taken a class maybe 20, 25 years ago called Quantum Touch, which is it's another discipline. I don't like that word. Another modality of energy healing. It's rather similar. I mean, it's all about intention, and I loved it. Didn't pursue it past beginners, but loved it and opened me up to a whole bunch of things. And I had, over time, I knew a lot of Reiki practitioners and started to investigate what that was about and decided to take studies and get certified. And as with many other things, each practitioner kind of has their own methods. I use Reiki as the basis. I like having that kind of a framework, but I by no means use all the I don't mean this insultingly, what seem to me rather ritualistic types of devices that are used in Reiki. It doesn't offer meaning to me, so I don't use them.
Right.
And I add back in what I receive from my own intuition.
Right. I want to say Blue Moon. We did kind of answer your question with somebody else's question. Holly doesn't do on the spot readings like that. She's not a psychic that way. So that's why I didn't. Why I kind of bypassed that because we had already kind of answered that question. Um, uh, can you talk a little bit more about how Reiki works when you believe it will work? I'm not sure how that applies to animals. When you speak to them energetically, tell them what you're going to offer them? Question mark.
That's a really good question.
I think it's a great question. I love it.
I obviously, as I've said before, but also it's what I'm in business for is to help critters. I mean, it's intention's everything. Intention is love, and I know it works. I mean, I've seen the results, and the animals don't know me at all when we are introduced, and that's why I have my little process that I go through to introduce myself and what I'm there for and what I wanted to offer. And I should interrupt myself by saying one time, 2 years ago or so, I saw a dog for the second time, and he was so eager to come to me, and he said, "Oh, good, I want some more warm." And
Hmm.
I loved that. I've kept that with me ever since. They seemed, or at least he did, most of the animals that I work with sense the energy as warm. Well, when you've had a Reiki session or anything else, you feel the warmth of the energy as well. So I call it the warm. So when I introduce myself to a pet, telepathically speaking, and tell them what I'd like to offer, I said, "Here's a sample." And I'll shoot them a little burst of warm. And if you like the way that feels, come on down.
Come on down. Love that. Love that. Um, Somebody was asking about if you can answer a question about racehorses. If you're asking her to read a racehorse, she's not going to give you the winner. Um, and and if you're asking, if you have a specific question about what they think about it, that's a good one. Somebody else asked, what's your thought on neutering and spaying?
Oh, don't get me started.
No.
I know some people who believe it's unnatural.
Mm,
Well, unnatural, I'm not, wait a minute, let me quietly put my soapbox away. Unnatural is when we allow hundreds of millions of animals to die because they're overpopulated, no one's taking care of them. So I am extremely adamant about neutering and spaying. And I
mm,
know it's tricky. Like I know a lot of people in the TNR, trap, neuter, return industry. It's a very difficult process when you're dealing with outside animals, strays and such. And I'm not going to get into that because it's several shows itself. But I believe that it is absolutely in the pet's best interest.
mm. Yeah, I agree. I had Odin fixed for that reason. Also with a Rottweiler, if you don't get them um, fixed, what happens is they get aggressive, and by keeping him, not thinking about it that way and thinking about food instead, he
Mhm,
ended up being a very calm dog, which I think he would have been anyway because he was a lovely dog.
mhm.
Um, Bright Love says, "Thank you for the live stream. She'll be buying the book Signs Along the Path as soon as she can." That's right,
Oh,
ladies and
thank
gentlemen.
you.
This is the mastermind behind Signs Along the Path. Holly had this idea about taking an old blog I did and traversing from fear to love all the way through it, and so she did all that amazing work putting that together. And please do go buy that book,
It's
because
really, I don't say this because we were co-authors, but it's really impactful.
yeah, and what I find interesting about it is I go back and I read it, and I'm very happy at the fact that my faith has not changed. I'm still very clear on what I was saying back then too. Also, that book is, as I said, Holly's book, so it really helps her and her business keep going if that book is purchased. So go ahead and give it a purchase. So um, I don't take anything from it because I wanted my friend Holly to have it for that reason,
Oh,
because I love her to death. Well,
I love
to
you too,
life,
Julie.
to life.
Thank you. My brother.
My bro, right? Um,
And thank you, Jenny Brown, for saying I love the signs. And I love what Bright Love says. That melts my heart. I want some more warmth.
uh, not, yeah, yeah. Somebody asked about if I talk to the dog and what about what's wrong and we can't hear them, what am I supposed to do? That's when you find someone like Holly who does that kind of work, and that's kind of how that happens. Uh, I have a male rescue cat and he isn't fixed. Should I talk to him beforehand?
Oh, yeah. I think
Um,
that's a great idea. And I don't know, nobody's ever brought that up before. Congratulations. I think it's a great idea. When you've made a doctor's appointment, just explain, don't need to go into details of surgery, but you need to just tell him that he's going to the doctor to help him feel better as he grows up or
hmm,
something along those lines. Your pet. But I think it's a great idea to just reassure them that you love them dearly and this is because you love them.
right. So the racehorse question was: are homebred racehorses? How to tell if they're happy um, training to race?
I would say talk to a communicator.
Yeah.
because they can kind of go over your whole, whether it's a horse or a stable of them.
And if the one that's in the chat board wants to out herself, she can. Please feel free. So I'm going down, see what else I can catch here. We're gonna wrap this up here in a few minutes here, and we're getting a lot of thank yous for having this topic. And so we are so welcome. I like having Holly on. Holly, why don't you tell them how they get a hold of you and a little bit anything else you want to tell them too.
Okay, well, I could go on for hours, but I won't. Go to the website, www.lightseedsbyholly.com. It's linked right below the picture, not linked, but it's showing right below my picture here in the yellow border. And it'll also be in the comments. And that's my main website. It has links also to my Facebook page. It has information about energy healing, what I do, who I am, my team. I already talked about my two kitties. They're my team, and one of them helps with every session. And there's also the page for scheduling, so you can get the information of what's needed if you want to schedule a session with your pet. And again, to stress, I'm not a communicator. Animal communication comes for me in the process of a healing, but I am an energy healer for animals, and I could probably help you find a communicator, or you can do a search online because there are a lot of them out there, and they're some really talented people. And as John just said, if the one that I know who's here wants to out herself, put it in the comments.
Great. So Holly, thank you so much for coming today. I really wanted
It's
to.
always fun.
Well, I also wanted the opportunity because I've been getting the questions that I know that you would have a much better insight than I could possibly have. And so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your
And
Saturday.
I appreciate all the comments and all the people watching this, either present or in the future and in past tense, that all these animal lovers. I love that we're all gathering together in this space. So thank you for making that happen.
Oh, I just do what they tell me. They ask questions, so I try to give them what they ask, give them the answers. So anyway, thank you, Holly. I'm going to sign out of this thing
Thank
here.
you.
All right. So guys, that was Holly, and as you can see, she's one of my favorite people in the world. And the results that I've heard people say about Holly's work is profound. And if you, like I say, go to her website, check out what other people are saying about the work. It's beautifully done and very impactful on not only the pets but also their pet parents. And so go ahead and check her out. And if you're interested in learning on how to start your own YouTube channel, I'm doing a very basic start your YouTube channel tomorrow, 1 o'clock. And then Friday, we're coming on for another live stream, the Live Loving live stream, where we just open up to whatever spiritual questions you have. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I will talk to you guys later on. See ya. Bye.